Welcome to my channel. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, we will be going over the Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces from March 1st to April 12th, 2025. In this forecast, I will be getting into charts for the Venus retrograde, going over surrounding energies. I will be getting into all 12 rising signs, and I will also be going over what a Venus retrograde cycle looks like. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. I will have timestamps listed below so that you can skip ahead to the section of the video that you wish to watch. But I do recommend watching the portion where I go over the energy and the actual Venus retrograde cycle. So let's get right into it. So Venus is going to station retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries and move back to 24 degrees of Pisces. Venus entered pre-shadow January 27th. Now, Venus is going to station retrograde March 1st, and then Venus will enter post-shadow April 12th. So the pre-shadow phase is from January 27th to March 1st when Venus stations retrograde, and then the retrograde phase is from March 1st till Venus stations direct April 12th. And the post shadow phase is from April 12th when Venus stations direct to May 15th. And that is when Venus clears the degree points of the retrograde period. So let's go over the Venus retrograde phases. So a pre-shadow phase begins about a month before the retrograde phase, about a month before the planet stations retrograde. And this is where themes, events, and significant energies can arise, giving you an idea of what will be reassessed, reevaluated, and redirected in some way. This is usually a time period where we want to journal, document what is showing up for us energetically, certain situations, certain experiences. And then the retrograde phase. This is a period of review, reassessment, reflection, and reconnection. Reconnection when we're talking about Venus retrograde, because Venus retrograde can bring up past relationships and relationship dynamics. And they can resurface for karmic completion and karmic clearing, especially in Pisces. But Venus retrograde can trigger old relationships to come back into the picture, and old relationship dynamics. Also, past financial commitments and decisions that need to be reassessed in some way. The post shadow phase, this is a period when you gain more clarity, insight, and develop an understanding and resolution for what you were navigating, what you were reassessing during the Venus retrograde phase. We can develop a different perspective on the situation and events we were moving through. So the Venus retrograde cycle occurs approximately every 18 months and lasts roughly 40 days, sometimes 40 to 43 days. And during this period, Venus appears to be moving backwards in the sky from our perspective on Earth. Now, Venus retrogrades in the same sign every 8 years. So you can think back to 8 years prior. What were you moving through that Venus retrograde? Always keep in mind, though, there's other planetary influences. Like we always have planets in different signs aspecting the Venus retrograde. So the energies are very, very different, but it can at least give you an idea of themes, topics, and events and areas of life the Venus retrograde was working with. Venus retrograde triggers deep inner reflection and reassessment in areas related to love, relationships, beauty, self-worth, personal values, and finances. Old flames, past connections, and past relationship dynamics can resurface for karmic clearing or to clear away any karmic patterns or cycles that are no longer in alignment with you, no longer serve you. It is not advised to begin a brand new relationship or partnership with someone new, someone that you don't know prior to the Venus retrograde period, because it tends to fade away after Venus stations direct. And there tends to be something about that person that you're not seeing clearly. whether it's character and personality traits or just something about their life that is unclear, that becomes very evident at the time of the Venus station. So it's not recommended to start any new relationships or partnerships during Venus retrograde. Now, this is also when past financial decisions may come up for review. It's not advised to make any financial commitments if possible. Try and hold out until Venus at least stations direct. This is a time when deep inner reflection can take place, reassessing what you need to feel completely satisfied within relationships, what you need, want, and desire, how you want to be loved and how you love others, how you express love, examining your self-esteem and how that trickles out into your personal connections can also become evident. So Venus retrograde in Aries. Aries is a sign known for its independence, boldness, assertiveness, and is definitely going to intensify the retrograde energies, pushing us to confront how we assert our desires, maintain our independence, and approach relationships with passion and authenticity. So, some things that can be presented with this Venus retrograde in Aries are issues around independence, authenticity, individuality, and identity. Personal empowerment rather than codependency. This is really big, especially with it being connected to Pisces, right? Because Pisces can represent where we become codependent on others, where boundaries can be blurred. And so, if there are dynamics in your life that represent that or identify with that, they can be presented at this time to clear out, to release what is no longer in alignment with you. And this can be where maybe you're codependent on others or where others are codependent on you, and really having you step into your personal power. Impulsive energies around love, romance, and finances can also be presented at this time if you tend to be impulsive, an impulsive spender, or jump very quickly into relationships. That can be quite evident, and there may be lessons you need to learn through that process, especially with the Saturn conjunctions during this particular Venus retrograde. So you want to be cautious of that. Selfishness in love, romance, and material gain can also become evident, and issues around self love, self acceptance, and self worth can become quite evident during this retrograde period. So, Pisces is a very different energy from Aries. Pisces is deeply emotional and spiritual and known for its compassionate, intuitive, and dreamy nature. Pisces governs illusion, idealization, deception, and is extremely karmic. Be mindful of idealizing partnerships and relationships. Pisces tends to blur reality with fantasy. Grounding practices are essential during this transit to avoid getting lost in illusion and escapism. This is where there can be themes around, avoiding escaping reality through unhealthy choices, whether it's toxic relationships or addictive behaviors. So we want to be very cautious of that, especially if you're someone who already struggles in that area, right? Already struggles with, addictive behaviors or escapism. This can trigger that. So we want to make sure we're doing things on a daily basis to help mitigate that energy, grounding practices, and really doing the best you can through winter to stay grounded. I say that because I'm in Canada, but my best way of grounding is, getting my feet on the earth. But what does that look like for you, and how can you implement that into your daily life so that you can mitigate some of these difficult energies if this is a theme for you? So, spiritual connections, relationships, and romantic nostalgia can show up with Venus retrograde in Pisces. Karmic relationships can definitely be a thing with this energy. Emotional and spiritual boundaries in relationships and personal connections. Old wounds related to love, self worth, and trust may resurface. releasing emotional baggage and addictive behaviors, and replacing selfishness with selflessness. Pisces is very compassionate and forgiving. So there may be experiences or situations showing up where you have to shift, maybe how you would handle certain dynamics within relationships. This is a period where we can be dealing with a lot of karmic relationships because of the energy. Karmic relationships and karmic dynamics within relationships can really be presented at this time. Okay, so now let's get into some of these charts for the Venus retrograde period. So on the screen now, I have three charts, and these are representing the Venus-Saturn conjunctions in Pisces. We had our first Venus-Saturn conjunction at 16 degrees, January 18th, and that is this chart right here, 16 degrees. We're going to have our second Venus-Saturn conjunction April 7th I don't know why I didn't put this on top of here. Maybe, yeah, I don't know why I did that. It's kind of upside down. But anyways, I think I was trying to get it like close to the chart. But we'll have our second Venus-Saturn conjunction while Venus is retrograde at 25 degrees, 15 minutes of Pisces. And then we're going to have another Venus retrograde April 24th after Venus stations direct at 27 degrees, 13 minutes. So I want to get into this Venus and Saturn journey. This can really bring up dynamics around relationships, karmic patterns within relationships, also where there has not been a balance of commitment, boundaries, responsibilities. This energy is meant to work with intentionally to clear out old attachments, emotional baggage, patterns, and cycles that we have possibly been moving through within relationships for lifetimes. The energy that we're in because of this North Node, Saturn, Venus, we really are in this time of completions, karmic completions, and there's going to be a lot shifting and changing over the next few months when it has to do with relationships, when it has to do with your personal values, when it has to do with attachments to material possessions and money, whatever this looks like for you, and however this speaks to you on a personal level, there will be events, situations, and experiences showing up that you are meant to clear out. And so we want to think back to, January 18th. Did anything show up for you around relationships, around personal values, around financial commitments, around karmic cycles, patterns, behaviors? This can even have to do with personal cycles around escapism, addiction, avoidance issues, where you can self undo and self sabotage. This energy can also be working with those dynamics. So when we had the first conjunction at 16 degrees, we also had the moon form a conjunction to the south node in Virgo for the first time because the nodes entered Virgo and Pisces January 11th. Now, the nodes primarily react, respond, and communicate with the sun and the moon. They represent where we're having the eclipses. They are not actual planetary bodies, but they are mathematical degree points. Sun and the moon activate those nodal points the most. That is when that energy can become the most potent, where yes, we talk about when we have conjunctions, Saturn to the North Node, Venus to the North Node, Neptune to the North Node. These bring in significant energies, yes. But the upheaval and massive karmic changes I find are activated when we have the moon and the sun form a conjunction or aspect the nodes. And when the moon formed a conjunction to this south node in Virgo, it essentially turned it on, at the same time, we had the Saturn Venus conjunction at 16 degrees. We also had the moon activating this area of life where we can become controlling, critical of ourselves and of others, where we try to control outcomes. I've talked a lot about the nodal axis and the South Node being in Virgo, where we will have to learn over the next 18 months to trust the universe, trust the process, and let go. And this is where something may have been presented, whether it has to do with relationship dynamics, personal values, financial commitment, issues around escapism and addiction and self sabotage, self undoing. There may have been something highlighted January 18th. So think back to that time period because at the same time, we also had the sun connecting to the nodes and is forming a sextile to the north node and a trine to the south node. So this was really bringing in an opening for new developments when it has to do with these new karmic foundations that we will be creating over the next few months with this energy. Saturn and Venus together, especially in Pisces, this is karmic clearings of relationships where we have been in toxic karmic dynamics. There can be a clearing of that. Wherever the foundations are not aligned or really secure, stable, and strong within relationships, there can be a huge shakeup here. There's definitely going to be a lot cleared out when we're talking about one on one connections that we are not in alignment with. Saturn delivers reality checks. So, where we have over idealized partnerships, relationships, or where there has been deception, where things have been hidden or um, unclear, where there's been illusion, Saturn is coming in and bringing everything to the surface, delivering karma, holding everybody accountable and responsible for their actions. This is going to highlight weaknesses within relationships. Areas that are lacking stability will be tested. And this is where there will be lessons around relationships and one on one connections. This is where some people can feel restricted in a sense or limited, insecure, and lonely, kind of, if with this Saturn Venus energy. However, this is where we can have amazing breakthroughs and developments with patience, structure, discipline, and consistency, because that is that Saturn energy. Now, if we take a look at the chart for April 7th, where we have Venus retrograde at 25 degrees, this is another check-in period. This is where this energy is a little bit more internalized because Venus is retrograde. So Venus is still sitting with energies, reconsidering, reevaluating, reassessing the dynamics going on. This is where there can be really important conversations being had, really important information coming in because of that Mercury conjunction. Now, this is also hours after Mercury stations direct. Mercury is going to retrograde over the same degree points that Venus is going to retrograde over. So, this area of our chart is going through massive redirection, reassessment, and reevaluation over the next few months. Now, again, because this is the retrograde period, there's not necessarily anything new showing up at this point around April 7th. This is already themes, events, situations, experiences, and energy that we've been in, that we've been reassessing and reevaluating over the last couple of months. Now, Uranus is in Taurus, which is disposited by this Venus retrograde, and Uranus is forming a sextile. So this can be significant emotional and spiritual breakthroughs. This can also be something coming in financially that can be quite groundbreaking. We also have Mars at 25 degrees of Cancer. Mars is post shadow at this point, which is again bringing in more of this emotional, um, almost like emotional, there's like a lot of emotional breakthroughs taking place. And this is also energy that we've been in for quite some time because Mars and Uranus have been in this sextile dance for a few months now while Mars was retrograde, and there was a lot being disrupted internally and emotionally when it has to do with our emotional foundations and what we need internally to feel safe, secure, and what we need for stability, emotional stability. So, this is where there can be something coming in to help guide you towards those new foundations that we are creating emotionally, around relationships, around our finances, around our self love, self worth. And now, if we take a look at the final chart here for April 24th, when we have Venus and Saturn form their final conjunction at 27 degrees, this is with the North Node and the Moon. So the Moon is getting ready to pass over the North Node as Venus and Saturn form their conjunction. This is actually quite significant because the nodes primarily react and respond to the Sun and the Moon. And so the Moon is passing over that nodal point, turning it on. I look at this, I feel like there's something quite significant coming in on this day for new beginnings, this new foundation that is being built and created, whether it's with a new relationship or it's not a new relationship, it's new foundations for a solid relationship coming in the future. Or it's new foundations for a current relationship that just went through the karmic clearing of karmic cycles, karmic patterns. And, the last few months, March, April, at this point, the last few months, there would have been a lot of upheaval within those karmic relationship dynamics. And this is something really beautiful coming in to help support this new direction moving forward. Now let's take a look at the chart for March 11th, where we have Venus retrograde forming a conjunction to Mercury at 8 degrees of Aries. Now, on this day, there can just be something highlighted or something coming in around conversations, information to help guide you through this reassessment, redirection, reevaluation journey that Venus will be going through. Something can be coming in here, influencing change around whatever it is you're moving through internally. Now let's take a look at this chart for March 22nd, where we have our Venus Cazimi. And this is where we can have really significant insight, breakthroughs, and developments to help guide us towards the direction that we are moving into when it has to do with this Venus retrograde journey. Now, at this point, Mercury is going to be retrograde. This is Venus is still in. Actually, I just realized that Venus and the Sun have their cazimi at 2 degrees, and Venus and Saturn are going to form a conjunction. Their next conjunction it will be March 2026. And so when planets form a conjunction, there's kind of this journey that takes place as the planet transits the zodiac. So over the next year, as Venus forms a sextile, square, trine, opposition to Saturn, there's kind of more to this Saturn Venus journey that is being created at this time. Now, Venus and Saturn are going to form a conjunction March 2026 at 2 degrees of Aries. I find that very significant considering this Venus Cazimi is at 2 degrees of Aries. So, really pay attention to what is coming in with this Venus Cazimi. And when Venus and Saturn form a conjunction here next year, there can be really beautiful, solid foundations and committed partnerships or committed financial matters. Like that really have a solid foundation. March 22nd, we want to pay attention to what is coming in. We can have some really powerful insight, clarity, guidance, intuitive downloads. There can be something really beautiful coming in to help support us in the new direction that we are moving in. And this can have to do with our self-love, self-worth, self-confidence, that at the end of the day, we need to have a healthy sense of self to have a healthy relationship, to release these toxic karmic patterns and cycles that play out within relationships. And this can be part of that, story and how these brand new foundations are being created. This truly all has to do with putting us on a path that is more in alignment with the direction that we are moving in with the North Node in Pisces, whether that is individually or in a committed partnership, but clearing out all old emotional baggage, karmic cycles, karmic patterns, even financial attachments that can be preventing us from moving into this um, path that is aligned with our destiny and our life purpose. Now let's take a look at this chart for March 30th, where we have, I kind of threw this one in because there's just so much going on in Pisces that I just wanted to touch on this and go through this energy. We have Mercury retrograde with Venus retrograde. We have the North Node. Um, Mercury kind of conjunct Neptune here, all happening. There's quite a lot going on in March. And then we have Mars down here in Cancer forming a trine to Saturn, and Mars will be post shadow. We have Uranus in Taurus in this, sextile to Uranus and Taurus and the sextile to Mars, the sextile to Saturn. So, I mean, there's a lot of breakthroughs coming in here emotionally, spiritually, which I kind of touched on in the previous slide. But this is just another one of those days that we want to pay attention to, what is coming in, what is showing up, important conversations that we are having, information coming in, especially when it has to do with our self-love, self-worth, what we need, want, and desire in relationships, when it has to do with our own personal karmic cycles, patterns, subconscious behaviors that play out in relationships or our day-to-day life, attachments that are holding us back from, financial alignment. These can be financial attachments as well. But with this Uranian energy, there's, it's like I've felt for a while like there's foundations being shaken so that new foundations can be created. Whatever is not solid, strong, and sustainable is going to kind of wither away so that we can build a foundation, whether it's relationships, whether it has to do with our self-worth, however this looks like for you and however this kind of speaks to you, because we'll all go through this in our own way. But this is really bringing in the ability to create something, create foundations that are sustainable, that are long lasting because of that Saturn energy. We do want to be careful, though, with this energy that we are not making decisions that we will regret later. Again, Mercury's retrograde, Venus is retrograde. We still very much are in energy of not moving too quickly. Um, the Mars trying to Saturn and Uranus may have us wanting to kind of react and move quick. I mean, it's almost like emotional reacting. It's this moon in Aries that's kind of squaring Mars, where I feel like can be fired up, angry, hurt, um, and want to react or respond emotionally. And we just have to be careful around this time that we are not making decisions or reacting and responding in a way that we will regret. Aries, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your first house and your 12th house. So there can be a lot that you are rethinking, reassessing, and redirecting when it has to do with your self-worth, self-esteem, self-love, your needs, wants, and desires, what you need, want, and desire in relationships, what you require within relationships, and the needs, wants, and desires of others and what you are willing to give. There can possibly be feelings of loneliness or feeling not good enough within relationships during this transit, with the Venus retrograde in the first house. Now, with the Pisces influence and that North Node energy influencing this entire Venus retrograde cycle, there's a lot of karmic clearings of karmic cycles, patterns that have played out within relationships, personal karmic cycles and patterns that you have carried into relationships. So there could be a lot of upheaval during this Venus retrograde and a lot cleared so that you can build healthy foundations moving forward for future relationships or even current relationships, but clearing out all of the toxic karmic cycles that have been in that current relationship, building a new foundation. Now, relationships that are not built on solid foundations can be shaken up during this transit. Venus ruling your seventh house of relationships, there's quite a lot of focus on relationships for you, and your needs, wants, and desires, and what you require within relationships. Now, Venus also rules that second house of money, finances, and material possessions, personal values. So there can also be a lot around finances showing up at this time. You don't want to be making too many financial commitments or really any financial commitments during the Venus retrograde if possible. Um, and with the Saturn energy, it's really just bringing in more of that karmic kind of. I feel like if there's been any deception within relationships, anything hidden, everything's going to be presented by the end of this Venus retrograde cycle. I feel like this is a complete karmic clearing. This is really bringing in a brand new opportunity to start fresh with a clear slate, whether again it's with a current person or somebody new, and where you even feel refreshed. After this Venus retrograde, and you have reassessed your personal needs, wants, and desires, and clear out any old emotional, spiritual baggage that has been holding you back, any attachments that you've had, everything is going to kind of become evident during this Venus retrograde over the next couple of months because of the other coinciding energy. So this really is bringing in an amazing opportunity to kind of start fresh, clear your energy, and build healthy, sustainable relationships, financial ventures, and opportunities without the karmic attachments or even attachments that have prevented you in some way from attaining the financial gains that you've really wanted to attain in this lifetime. Taurus, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your 12th house and your 11th house. So there's quite a lot here around karmic friendships. The 11th house rules networking, groups, associations, any groups that you're kind of connected to, social media, online connections. And the 12th house represents karma and spirituality. The 12th house also rules our subconscious, self-undoing, self-sabotaging. And so there's quite a lot that will be highlighted throughout this Venus retrograde cycle where you can become aware of your own subconscious patterns, behaviors, or habits that have possibly prevented you from moving forward and in the direction that you've wanted to move in. This is really over the next few months, there's really going to be a karmic clearing out karmic cycles, karmic patterns to start fresh. So you can start fresh with a clean slate. Now, Venus is your chart ruler. So this is working with you very personally. Venus rules your first house and also rules your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. So that's another focus that may be presented at this time is, your health, maybe changing your day-to-day routine up in some way. There can be a rethinking or reassessing your needs, wants, and desires, what you need on a day-to-day basis to feel healthy. Um, I almost feel like to like energetically clean so you don't feel like that heavy energy on a day-to-day basis. You may be shifting up your daily routine so that you can feel a lot lighter moving forward. Gemini, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your 10th house and your 11th house. So Venus is going to station retrograde in your 11th house of friends and friendships, networking, social groups, online connections, social media. And Venus is going to retrograde back into your 10th house of career, public reputation, public image. So there can be a lot that you're rethinking around your career. There can be a lot that you're rethinking around friendships. There could be a lot of karmic endings or completions with friendships. There can even be actually friends from the past even coming in where there's unfinished business. Maybe people that you knew from childhood coming in. That's definitely a possibility. Now, with all the other coinciding energy and that North Node being in your 10th house, this is over the next couple of months, there's really like a karmic clearing taking place. We are clearing out all karmic attachments, cycles, patterns, anything that has been holding us back from moving in this brand new direction that is truly in alignment with our life purpose and our soul's journey in this lifetime. So, whatever this new direction is that you're moving into around your career, public reputation, and public image, there can be a lot that you're rethinking, reevaluating, and reassessing. And then once that Venus station's direct, a lot will become more clearer. But during that retrograde phase, there's going to be a lot clearing out, a lot presented, a lot coming to your awareness so that you can become aware of certain attachments that you may have had, but even from childhood, that have possibly been holding you back in some way. Cancer, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your ninth house and your 10th house. Your ninth house, well, Venus is going to station retrograde in your 10th house of career, public reputation, and public image, and retrograde back into your ninth house. And Pisces of higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, philosophy, belief systems, teaching, publishing. So there's quite a lot that we are rethinking and reassessing in this area of life. Now, during this retrograde process, this is really like a karmic clearing. We are clearing out all karmic attachments, patterns, and cycles that we have been holding on to for possible lifetimes. And so this is giving us the opportunity to start fresh, whether within current relationships or new relationships, but to really start fresh with almost like clean energy. Mars is also going to be stationing direct and moving forward in your first house, forming a trine to some of this energy. So there very much can be this need and desire to move forward with something. Just be careful that you're not moving too quickly. You're not reacting or responding too fast without having all the facts or knowing kind of everything going on because of that Venus retrograde. And we're also going to have Mercury retrograde throughout this process. We still want to be sitting with some energy. We don't want to be moving forward too quickly or making any rash decisions. Um, and I'm saying that because Mars is in your first house. The Uranus energy kind of coinciding with all of this is really bringing in this opportunity to have amazing emotional breakthroughs and spiritual breakthroughs. So we really want to pay attention to what is presented at this time during the Venus retrograde process, because whatever is kind of comes to our awareness, whatever karmic clearings we have, this is giving us the ability to start fresh, to start with a clean slate moving forward that can truly help, um, that can affect really your career and your ninth house themes and topics. Leo, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your eighth house and your ninth house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your ninth house of higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, philosophy, belief systems, astrology, teaching, publishing. Um, and retrograde back to Pisces in your eighth house, which is your partner's finances or investments, money coming in from outside resources, taxes, inheritance, psychological healing, and transformation. So you can be going through quite a lot over the next few months with this Venus retrograde in the eighth house. You can actually be going through some amazing psychological healing and transformation. But we're all kind of navigating this is really focusing on our internal needs, wants, and desires, what we need, want, and desire within relationships, and really karmic patterns, cycles, and attachments that we've been holding on to for possible lifetimes that have been preventing us from healthy relationships or preventing us from solid financial gains in this lifetime. So pay attention to what is kind of showing up for you throughout this Venus retrograde process, because this is really whatever is being presented at this time is giving us the ability to clear away, let go of all that emotional and spiritual baggage, and start fresh. Virgo, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your seventh house and your eighth house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your eighth house of your partner's finances, joint resources, joint investments, um, money coming in from outside resources, also taxes, inheritance, psychological healing and transformation, intimacy. And Venus is going to retrograde back into your seventh house of relationships and one on one connections. So there's quite a lot here that you are rethinking and reassessing around joint finances, relationships, intimacy, intimate connections, partnerships. So, over the next few months, there can be a lot presented where we really become aware of karmic attachment cycles, patterns that have been holding us back in some way or preventing us from moving forward within relationships or preventing us from moving forward um, within to around finances really to attain our financial gains that we wish to attain in this lifetime. And so you really want to be paying attention and journaling over the next few months to what is showing up. You have that north node in the seventh house, so there's quite a lot going on here karmically around relationships that I really think is going to be a lot of this energy for you, Virgo. There can be a lot presented where there's been deception, illusion, where you've over idolized partners. There can be a lot presented where you really start to see things in a different light. You start to see people in a different light, especially with that Saturnian energy. Um, so pay attention to kind of what is showing up here. There can be a lot that you are able to clear out spiritually, emotionally, and energetically so that you can release any karmic cycles you've been and patterns you've kind of been hanging on to, almost like energetic and emotional baggage that have played out within relationships. This is all about building brand new foundations so you can create healthy relationships, solid relationships on a solid foundation. Libra, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your sixth house and your seventh house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your seventh house of relationships and one on one partnerships and retrograde back into your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. So there's quite a lot in this area of life that you're rethinking, reassessing, and reevaluating. Now, Venus is your chart ruler. So there can be a lot that you are also rethinking, reassessing, and reevaluating around your personal needs, wants, and desires, what you are willing to give in relationships, what you require within relationships, because it's also in that seventh house. It can have to do with relationships and one on one connections. if you listen to the first portion of this forecast, I talked a lot about how a lot of this energy is about karmic clearings of karmic cycles, patterns, and attachments. So this is really bringing, you want to pay attention over the next few months to what is presented, what is kind of showing up to your awareness, because there really is this ability and opportunity to release and let go of all karmic patterns and cycles that have played out within relationships. But there can be a lot of upheaval within partnerships in order to do so. So we really do want to pay attention to kind of what is presented. Now, Venus retrograding in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, there can be, you possibly reassessing your day-to-day routine because that helps you energetically on a day-to-day basis. And I even felt intuitively like feeling lighter, not feeling energetically so heavy. You may be changing your diet, meditating on a day-to-day basis, possibly doing yoga, maybe starting to work out. There can be something new, especially with that North Node in the sixth house too. There can be something showing up over the next few months that's causing you to want to change your day-to-day routine or even um work, even habits around work too, I'm feeling, so that you can feel lighter, not as stressed, not as strained, and not as like overloaded, if that makes sense. But over the next few months, there's can be a lot of clearing old toxic patterns that have played out within relationships. There can be a lot of clearing, even attachments around money, finances, and attachments that have prevented you from attaining the financial gains you've wanted to attain previously, if that makes sense. So definitely journal over the next few months. Pay attention to what is showing up for you, because we really are in a lot of energy of just karmic clearing, clearing out the old, and creating something really beautiful, really new, really solid, moving forward around relationships and finances. Scorpio, you have this Venus retrograde in your sixth house and your fifth house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, and retrograde back into your fifth house of children, creativity, passion, romance, what you do for fun, what you find pleasure in. That is all in that fifth house. So, this is the area that you are reassessing, reevaluating, and redirecting. Now, we are also having a Mercury retrograde in this area at the same time. So there's quite a lot here we are rethinking and reevaluating. Now, for you, Venus rules your seventh house of relationships and one on one connections, and your 12th house of spirituality, karma, things, people, places that are hidden, the subconscious. So there can if you listen to the first portion of this video, I feel like this kind of really resonates with you and aligns with you. There can be a lot of karmic patterns, cycles, and attachments clearing out that have played out within relationships, whether it's from you or just uh, partnerships in general. You can really be becoming aware of certain aspects of yourself that um kind of stem from childhood, whether it's emotional attachments, energetic attachments, but really becoming aware of those aspects of yourself so you can clear them away so they no longer play out in your relationships. Or even when it has to do with your finances, we can have financial attachments that can bog us down that actually prevent us from attaining the financial gains that we wish to attain in this lifetime. You can become aware of that over the next few months. This is the time to journal and really pay attention to what is presented and what is showing up for you at this time. This is also where you can start to change what you need, want, desire within relationships, or your relationships can start to, or your partner can change or require different needs, wants, and desires within this Venus retrograde process. If that makes sense. Now, Uranus is currently in that seventh house and is in this conversation. I do go over these charts if you watch um, the slides previously, before I get into the all signs forecast. But this is really allowing us to release old emotional and karmic baggage, whether it has to do with, karmic relationships, whether it has to do with old family dynamics, attachments from childhood that have kind of, you know, played out within relationships, but there can be a lot presented over the next few months, a lot that you become aware of if you have that awareness so that you can clear everything out, clear out all those karmic cycles and start fresh on solid foundations, whether it's with new partnerships or even a current partner, but just like a healthier, more solid foundation. Sagittarius, you have this Venus retrograde taking place in your fifth house and your fourth house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your fifth house of children, creativity, romance, passion, pleasure, hobbies, everything you do for fun, and retrograde back into your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, your private life, what you do behind the scenes. So there's a lot that you are rethinking, reassessing, and reevaluating in this area of life. Now, Venus stationing direct in that fifth house, there can be a lot that you're addressing around children, romantic connections, what you find pleasure in, what you do for fun. You can be rethinking or reassessing creative pursuits, projects, or ventures. There can be a lot that you are addressing around your home and family. There can be possibly, if you started renovations, which don't start any renovations during this Venus retrograde, wait till Venus stations direct. But if you did, there could be a lot that you're addressing. There could be a lot that you're addressing around family at this time. There could be a lot of focus around family, especially with that North Node transiting the fourth house over the next 18 months. There can be a lot of focus around home and family and your private life and what you're doing behind the scenes. We really are in this period of karmic clearing, of old karmic cycles, old karmic patterns, old karmic attachments that have been preventing us from moving forward, whether it's in relationships or whether it has to do with financial attachments that have stopped us from attaining the financial gains we wish to attain in this lifetime. Now, Venus rules your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, and also your 11th house of friends, friendships, networking, social groups, online connections. So this Venus retrograde can also be working with these areas of life as well. You may be wanting to change your daily routine so that you can feel energetically lighter in a way. Maybe you're realizing that because part of this Venus retrograde too is, rethinking your needs, wants, and desires, what you need on a day-to-day basis so that you can feel happy, whole, and complete, so that you can, attain a healthy sense of self. And so if that means changing your nutrition habits or your workout routine, maybe implementing yoga or meditation on a day-to-day basis, that may be something that you are, wanting to start or bring into your new daily life. There can also be a lot here around friendships. There can be childhood friendships showing up at this time, friendships from the past, or people that you meet where you feel like you know them, but you don't know from where or how. It could be from like previous lifetimes with this Venus retrograde energy. But all in all, this is really a time to journal, pay attention to what is showing up for you. This is a period of karmic clearing. So we essentially want to clear out the old to make room for the new. Old emotional baggage, karmic baggage, we want to let it go. Capricorn. You have this Venus retrograde taking place in your fourth house and your third house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, and retrograde back into your third house of communication, your mind, your mindset, also your community, neighbors, siblings, cousins, vehicles. There could actually be a lot around your vehicles at this time that you might want to be careful of. You may need to address. That's kind of common with Venus, with Mercury retrograde, but especially when it's kind of connected to the third house. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But with Venus retrograde in the fourth house, there can be a lot of focus on family, reassessing family dynamics. Venus rules your fifth house of children, romantic connections, creative projects and pursuits, and also your 10th house of career and public reputation, your public image. The 10th house is your public life, and the fourth house is your private life. And so there might be a lot that you are rethinking when it has to do with your public life and your private life, because Venus rules that 10th house, and Venus is going to be retrograding in the fourth. So you may be reassessing um, and trying to figure out how you create a balance in these areas of life. I don't suggest or recommend doing any like renovations during the Venus retrograde, but there can be a lot of focus around home and family. Now, generally speaking, with this Venus retrograde, and this really is a period of energetic and karmic clearing, clearing out karmic cycles, patterns, and attachments that have been holding us back in some way, whether it stems from childhood or just previous life experiences. But there can be a lot presented over the next few months where you really become aware of certain aspects of yourself that's been holding you back. And this can even have to do with your thought process, your way of thinking, your mindset, because of that third house association. Venus is going to retrograde also back into that third house. That North Node is in the third house. So there is this new direction that you are moving into when it does have to do with your mindset and communication. Also community, neighbors, those are other themes and topics associated with the third house. But with this Venus retrograde, I feel like there's a lot here around emotional baggage, releasing a lot of emotional baggage, releasing a lot of karmic cycles and patterns, and just this like amazing karmic clearing that we have the opportunity to kind of um, work with here so we can start fresh, create and build brand new foundations where we don't have those karmic patterns, cycles, and attachments kind of holding us back in any way. Aquarius, you have this Venus retrograde in your third house and second house. Your third house rules your mind and mindset, communication, also community, neighbors, neighborhood, siblings, cousins, vehicles, local travel. And your second house rules money, finances, and material possessions, also personal values. So Venus is going to be stationing retrograde in your third house and moving back into your second. So there's a lot here you are reassessing, reevaluating, and redirecting. Now, because of all the other coinciding energy, we really are in this time of karmic clearing, clearing out old emotional baggage, clearing out karmic cycles and patterns that have been playing out, for possible lifetimes. We really want to be paying attention to what is presented over the next few months. This is a time to journal. Venus rules your ninth house of higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, belief systems, philosophy, religion, and also your fourth house of home, family, property, real estate, and your private life. So these areas of life can also be, you can also be reassessing, themes and topics associated with these areas of life as well. There can be some focus on home and family. There can be something that you're having to address around home and family, especially with the Uranus energy connecting to the Venus-Saturn conjunction that will take place, which I went over that chart if you watch the first portion of this video. But this really is a time of clearing out old emotional baggage, any attachments that we have held on to, especially for you, Aquarius. If you have any financial or money attachments, old money mindset that has prevented you from attaining the financial gains you wish to attain in this lifetime, you can really become aware of that over the next few months. This is the time to clear that out and start fresh. Release all attachments around money, around finances, around love, relationships, around self-love. This is the time to start fresh, to clear out the old and bring in the new, especially with this North Node in Pisces. We have this ability to create brand new, uh, really this brand new spiritual journey that we will be embarking on. Pisces, you have Venus retrograde taking place in your second house and your first house. Venus is going to station retrograde in your second house of money, finances, and material possessions and personal values, and retrograde back into your first house of self, your personality, your character, your physical body, your appearance. Um, how you view the world and how others view you. That's all in that first house. A lot of this Venus retrograde in the first house can have to do with self-worth, self-esteem, self-love issues. There can be a lot of feelings of like loneliness with this energy that we want to be cautious of. Um, Possibly feeling like unlovable, not good enough. We really want to try to not fall into that trap because that those energies can be quite intense at the moment. Make sure you're journaling, make sure you have that self-awareness, and make sure you're paying attention to what is showing up for you. With all the other coinciding energies, this really is a period of karmic clearing, clearing out old emotional baggage, clearing out karmic cycles, karmic patterns that have played out within relationships. Also, attachments around money and finances because of that second house influence. Venus is going to retrograde in the second house. And also, March of 2026, Venus and Saturn will form a conjunction at 2 degrees of Aries, which is where Venus is going to have her Cazimi. And there can be beautiful financial opportunities coming in for you. So now is the time to clear out anything that is holding you back financially. Now, like I kind of mentioned, this is also a period of karmic clearing, clearing out any attachments around relationships, any toxic cycles, patterns that have played out within relationships. Venus retrograde in the first house can have you, you can be reassessing your needs, wants, and desires within relationships. Also, your partner can be going through a lot. What they need, want, and desire as well. There can be a lot of upheaval during this period around relationships. Relationships that are not built on a solid foundation can really go through it during this Venus retrograde because of the Saturnian influence and because of just all this karmic energy where we really are in this time of karmic clearing. And so relationships that are no longer in alignment or are no longer meant to be, in our lives will be cleared out, or there can just be patterns and cycles cleared out so that we can build healthier um, foundations within the current relationships, if that makes sense. So I hope that this helps you kind of navigate the energy for this Venus retrograde Pisces, and I will connect with you in the next one.